Welcome to another episode of the K&A Football Podcast. We are through week 4 of the NFL season. Austin, we are going into week 5. I feel like just yesterday we started the season. It is very sad. I saw something on Instagram today, and it was like, believe it or not, we are in week 5 of the NFL season. And that really just like hit me. And I was like, wow. I mean, yes, we still have many weeks to go, but that was still just a mind-boggling thing. And we are officially to the point where we cannot say at the beginning of an episode it's overreaction season. It's we don't know about these teams yet. We know about all these teams. We know the truth. We've seen these teams in 4 games. We know who these teams are. We are in the meat of the season, and I'm excited. This is when the full NFL season's ramping up. Baseball is in their playoffs, so that's going to be over soon. So it's only going to be football in the main spotlight. You got NBA, but everybody knows nobody really watches the NBA. So, but yeah, we're excited. We're going to talk about week 4. There's a lot of crazy things that happened, injuries, record-breaking performances, and Austin and I are here to talk about it all. This is K&A Football. So, Austin, I just talked about how I'm a little bit sad that we're already here into week 5. How are you feeling? I guess a month into the season, and we're into October now. So,
wow, no, you're right. A month in is actually crazy. It does not feel that long at all. But no, you're absolutely right. Like we're here in the meat of the season here. Like it is officially October now. We're here. Like this is football season. Like it's getting cold. Mm-hmm. I got my candy corn. I got my little white pumpkin that all white girls love from the King's White Pumpkin Farm. It is fall, like it's cold, it's rainy, the leaves are changing, like it's football weather. I
was gonna say the same thing. This is when you want to watch games.
It's sitting on your couch, you hear the CBS football, you see like the Iron Fox guy coming on, you're feeling good. But like you said, like it's time to like get worried, like the teams that are doing good, you're like, all right, they're doing fine, like I'm excited to see how they go. But the teams that aren't heating up, the teams that aren't figuring it out, it's like, what the world is going on? Like, you guys need to figure this out last week, because now we've seen your true colors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and before too long, it's going to be snow on the ground, snow football. Mm-hmm. Those are obviously some of the most fun games. So we are in the meat of the season, and it's a lot of fun. And it's football weather, like you said. This is exciting. So without further ado, I almost just did exactly what you did last week. We are not jumping into the recap yet. As always, we have our top 3 plays of the week. So our first play, we'll jump right into it. The Ravens versus Buffalo Bills on Sunday Night Football. The Bills get the ball first. They stall. And then the Ravens get the ball. A pretty good punt. Not the greatest field position for the Ravens, honestly. They're starting way back, 87 yards to go. And their first play, Debbie, if you want to roll the clip here, as if you missed us last week, we can't play the audio. We are going to talk over and give our own analysis as it's going. So, Debbie, if you'd like to roll the clip there. Starting all the way back at their own 13-yard line, Derrick Henry takes it and just gets to the gap. And unlike normal Derrick Henry runs, he's not breaking tackles. He's not stiff-arming guys. He's not running people over. He just outruns everybody. I mean, that was a speed running back play on a 250-plus pound running back.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like, I think the official time had him at a little over 21 miles an hour on this play. And, like, put that in perspective, everyone was freaking out during the combine over Xavier Worthy, and he ran slightly under, just around 22 miles an hour in the combine. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is the fastest guy since ever. What is this guy doing? And here's 250-pound Derrick Henry absolutely rumbling. Like you said, he's not breaking tackles. He's not stiff-arming guys and making them eat dirt. embarrassing them in front of their families on live TV. He just finds the gap and shoots this thing for 87 yards.
Yeah. Somebody that big should not be that fast. And that's what a lot of people were scared of facing the Baltimore Ravens. And we'll get there, obviously, like all of these games. But looks like a very good signing this offseason for the Ravens.
Does. Running back ageist GMs are scratching their head right now. Like, how is Derrick Henry doing this at 30 years old?
Yeah. And our next play number 2 for the week, Jamar Chase had a great week last week against Washington, scoring 2 touchdowns. And here playing the Carolina Panthers, a very offensive game. Not a lot of defense from both teams in this one. Jamar Chase took a little bit of a Yeah, Deb, you can go ahead and roll the clip there. Took a nice little short pass near midfield, and it just looked like a routine 15, 20-yard play. He breaks a tackle attempt there, breaks another tackle attempt, breaks a third tackle attempt, and just takes it down the sideline for one of the most improbable touchdowns that you'll see. I mean, he should have been tackled right off the bat, and then he had another opportunity to be tackled, and then he had another. Like, he was just bouncing off guys. That is something you would see from Derrick Henry. It's like the roles were reversed on the 2 plays. It was a really good play by Jamar Chase, and also very poor tackling by the Carolina Panthers defense.
Yeah, that was awful. I mean, you thought that he was going to get taken down 3 different times, and instead he takes it to the house for 60-something yards. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I did not see this play live. I was at my friend's baptism, and then I looked down at my phone, and I just see Jamar Chase 67-yard touchdown or whatever the final yardage was, and I was like, are you kidding me? And I just envisioned, like, burning him off the top, cook him on a go route. Exactly. And I go home, and I look at, like, I log on to Instagram, and I see this play, and I was like, there is no way. If I'd have been home and I watched that play live, I would have been very angry. We'll just say that. There would have been a lot of yelling at the TV, but great play by Jamar Chase nonetheless. And for our third and final play, something very rare, something we haven't seen in the NFL in a while. This comes from the Eagles and Buccaneers game. And this, in the final score, this didn't make too much of a difference, but at the moment, this was a pretty big play. Debbie, if you want to roll the clip, the Buccaneers had just scored a touchdown, and they were going up by 17 here. They were up by 16, so this would make it a 3-possession game. And the extra point was blocked, and it was a scramble for the ball picked up by the Eagles. And it looks like he might get pushed out of bounds, but he miraculously stays in bounds, takes it all the way back for a kick 2, if we want to call it that. But that was a massive play for at the moment, because instead of it being a 17-point 3-possession game, that not only kept it at 16, which is 2 possessions, that pushed it all the way to 14, which is obviously just 2 touchdowns and 2 extra points. So at the time being, that's a massive play and massive momentum boost for the Eagles. It ultimately didn't end up mattering, but definitely had to include that in the plays, as that's something we haven't seen. I don't remember the last time we've seen it. It's been a while since I've seen a blocked 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I mean, it's much more common that we even see like a blocked punt recovered for a touchdown, like in their own end zone and stuff. And so, like, obviously this one didn't matter too much. It would have been, a great story if this was, the game-winning field goal. They're tied up, and then the Eagles take that one back for the house and win. But in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter. But you got to put it up here just because, like, you don't see it. So, unfortunate for the Eagles. I mean, we'll get to that game in a little bit here, but fantastic play, and I'm going to remember that one for a while.
Yeah, it was a fun play. So now, without further ado, we're going to jump into the Week 4 recap. So there was a lot of, honestly, good games this week. Last week, a lot of games we talked about were very low scoring, but not a lot of action. It was kind of a slugfest through Week 3. But Week 4 was quite the opposite. A lot of games were close. A lot of games had points, and a lot of games had action. Started off on Thursday Night Football between the Cowboys and the Giants. Wasn't the highest scoring of games, wasn't the most flashy games by any means, but it was close. The Cowboys ended up taking this one 20-15. Austin, what did you take out of this game?
What I took out of this game is, first off, I don't know whether the Giants are better than we're giving them credit for. Obviously, they came off of a short week. They played the Browns on Sunday, and then they played the Cowboys on Thursday. So that's a really short week for them. And
Mm-hmm.
they beat the Browns, and it shaping up, the Browns aren't really as good as everyone had thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. But then they're coming in and playing the Cowboys, division rival. You're like, okay, come off that win against the Browns. Cowboys coming off a little bit of a slump too, but I'm sure they'll bounce back. And they really didn't. So the question for me is, like, are the Giants better than we're giving them credit for? Or at this point, are the Cowboys not as good as we're giving them credit for? Because they came off a slump. They came off of, I think, was it lost the week before?
Mm-hmm.
Now they barely squeak one out against the Giants. And so that's really my main question in this is, like, what are the Cowboys doing here? And obviously the other storyline is Malik Neighbors is just that guy. And we knew that from the week before, but it just perpetuates itself.
Yeah. Honestly, to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of both. We were not high on the Giants going into the season, and we will be the first ones to tell you that. I personally projected 0-17, which I know is ridiculous, but that, like, they lost Saquon Barkley, who was their entire offense. They gained Malik Neighbors, who is now their offense. Like you said, Malik Neighbors is so good. Like, that is a generational wide receiver, and they need to make sure they don't mess him up and drive him to the ground. But on the other side, their defense is a lot better than what people have given them credit for. And Daniel Jones, in all honesty, people can make the jokes all they want, but he played fine in this game. He has played okay this season, minus the week 1 game against Minnesota. But then if you look back, Minnesota has one of, if not the best defense in the NFL. So excluding the best defense in the NFL, Daniel Jones has honestly played serviceable and played like a solid NFL quarterback. Not good by any means, but definitely can win a few games. I mean, no one's screaming they're going to the playoffs, but they're gonna win a couple games. And the Cowboys, on the other hand, their defense is very suspect. I mean, this game they were able to stop the run, which they weren't able to do the first 3 weeks of the season by any means. But I mean, they're letting the Giants offense just slice and dice down the field. Once they got to the red zone, that was kind of the story of the game, was the Giants offense would just sputter, and they had to kick 5 field goals in this game. The Giants didn't score an offensive touchdown, but the Cowboys defense is just very questionable right now, with a lot of injuries, but also they don't have Dan Quinn. He obviously left and is now head coach at Washington, who's doing great right over there at Washington. But their defense is not the same as we've seen the last 2 seasons. And now they lost Micah Parsons and they lost DeMarcus Lawrence to injury. So we'll see how that affects them. It might get worse before it gets better for Cowboys.
Yeah. And somehow it's going to get worse, and not even the divisional round yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The next game that we have is the Saints and Falcons. Falcons walked away, and I use the word walked off because they walked away with a walk-off field goal to win this game 26-24. For the Falcons, obviously, big win. They needed this. We thought before the season the Falcons were going to be good. They're really trying to keep that up. They really competed against the Chiefs last week, pull out a win against the Saints this week. And for the Saints, like 2-2 has never felt worse. Like
Yeah.
It really hasn't. Like, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year, hey, the Saints are going to walk into here 2-2, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Walk into week 5 at 2-2, like I'm pretty happy with that if I'm the Saints. Like, there's not too much expectation in offense. Your defense is probably what's going to be carrying you. But after the first 2 weeks where they just went insane, and then these last 2 weeks, like,
these last 2 weeks, games that came down to the very wire that they very well could have won. Yeah.
Yeah, they could be 4-0 now, but instead they're sitting at 2-2, and I'm upset if I'm a Saints fan.
Yeah. I mean, this was a very Falcons versus Saints game. I feel like every year, these division rivals, they play twice a year. Every Falcons and Saints game seems to be very close, come down to the wire, and just be a weird, gritty type of a game. I have to check and make sure, but I'm almost positive that the Falcons didn't score an offensive touchdown in this game. Their first touchdown of the game came off of a muffed punt by Rashid Shaheed that was in the end zone. And then they had a pick six. Maybe they had one. Maybe Bijan would have ran one in. But they didn't. I'm trying to pull it up here. But like the Saints defense continues to hold their own. I mean, dominated week 1, dominated week 2. The Falcons won despite not having an offensive touchdown. Yeah, so they didn't score. I mean, they held their own week. The Saints dominated defensively week 1, dominated defensively week 2, played very good defensively week 3 against the Eagles. I mean, held them to 0 points going into the fourth quarter, and then once again dominated defensively here. I mean, their defense is very legit. I mean, a couple turnovers is the difference in this game. So, yeah, very Falcons and Saints game.
For sure. All right, the next game that we have is the Rams and Bears. So the Bears walked out of this one with the win, 24-18. The Rams did not have a good day. Matthew Stafford had a really, really bad day. Caleb Williams played one of the games of all time. Like, honestly, this was like one of his best games, just because he didn't make any mistakes on this one. Didn't throw for that much, did put away a touchdown, but the Bears are really just finding ways to win with their defense because their offense is almost non-existent.
Yeah. I mean, the Rams don't have a good offense. I mean, 24 points is really good for Caleb Williams and the Bears. I mean, that's all you can ask for if you're the Bears right now with your offense struggling as much as it is. You know your defense is going to do the job. So if you can just manage to put up some points on offense, yeah, you're going to get the job done. And that's what happened. I mean, Chicago is riding their defense, and it's working. They have a phenomenal defense. If you would have told a Bears fan going into the season that they'd be 2-2 going into week 5, I don't know if they would be thrilled. I mean, they had very high aspirations. A lot of Bears fans had a lot of delusional expectations for sure. But if you'd have told them they were 2-2, they might be okay with it. But if you told them they'd be 2-2, how they're 2-2, playing defensively and having a very poor offense, I don't think there's very optimistic and excited Bears fans at the moment. I think they're very upset with how Caleb Williams is playing, and I think they're very upset with how Jaden Daniels is playing in Washington.
For sure. And it's not really Caleb Williams' fault. Like, I'm not the biggest Caleb Williams fan. Like, I don't like him personally, but
you're not a fan of a dude painting his nails and having a person.
Yeah, no, that's not really my style. Call me old-fashioned.
me neither. Me neither. Don't worry.
But it really is just a problem with the Bears' internal structure, their coaching and their management. We saw that because Justin Fields is playing pretty well over in Steelers country, and we'll visit that in a second. The next game that we have is the Bengals and Panthers. The Bengals get their first win of the season here, win 34-24, like we mentioned in the intro or in our plays of the week. This is a very offensive game. Lots of scoring, not too much defense. And the real question, so for me anyways, I don't know if this is the real question for everyone else, because I think that everyone else is kind of taking this very face value, where they're saying, all right, we're back. This is the hump that the Bengals had to get over. Now they have their win. We're going to get back to our regularly scheduled programming. The Bengals are going to win lots and lots of games. And that very well may be true. This may have been what they needed. They needed this little kickstart, get the tick in the W column, move on with your life, start winning games. But I think what people are forgetting is that they won against the Panthers. Like, the Panthers are not a good team. Yes, they got this little kick of life last week with Andy Dalton coming in, and Andy Dalton played well this week. But it is still the Panthers. I mean, we saw that they had 3 missed tackles in one of our plays of the week this week. So did you get the win? Yes. Could this be what catapults you into winning more? Maybe. But also, we need to remember that this is their first win of the season, and it was against the Panthers. Like, we probably shouldn't be overreacting. Like, here we go. The Bengals are back on track now. They won against the Panthers.
Mm-hmm. And this was a very winnable game for the Panthers. Throughout the game, they had a lot of defensive injuries the Bengals scored 34 points. That's a great offensive game. They probably would have. They have a high-powered offense. Nobody's arguing with that. We saw that last week with Washington. The reason they lost was because they couldn't get a stop. They scored 34 points against the Panthers. The Panthers were shooting themselves in the foot time and time again in this game. If it wasn't for a couple mistakes, this could very easily have gone the other way, and the Bengals would be looking at 0-4. The Bengals offense is elite, and there's no questions about that. I don't think anybody's arguing that. But their defense is very, very much in question. Washington, yes, they're a dynamic offense right now, but they cooked you last week. Panthers offense, yes, they looked really good last week against the Raiders, and they look like they have energy with Andy Dalton, but they're not a top-tier NFL offense. And, they very well could have gone in the 30s this game, too. They got stopped at the 1-yard line early in this game. I truly do think that the Bengals are back. I think that their philosophy has always kind of been, we're just going to outscore you. And I think that it's going to be that way again, especially this season with their defense taking a bigger step back. I do think that they're going to be back. I think this was the step in the direction they needed, but they're definitely the Bengals games are going to be fun to watch. We'll say that, but I think that they will be back. I think Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are going to have an explosive second half. Well, no, we're not in the second half, but rest of the season, because they're going to need to be scoring all these points because their defense is that bad this season.
Yeah, I agree. All right, our next game that we have is the Vikings and Packers. So another really, really high-scoring game. Vikings ended up winning 31-29. And we had said that what this game was really going to come down to is whether or not Jordan Love would play. If we have Malik Willis under center, the Vikings are going to be able to confuse him. He hasn't had the experience. He doesn't have the confidence. The Vikings defensive scheme is going to really mess with his head. And it might have even been the case with Jordan Love, just because he doesn't quite have the experience either, though he did have the opportunity to sit on the bench for a couple of years. Turns out not the case. Very high-scoring game, obviously. We have almost, we do have 60 points scored in this game. Both quarterbacks had tremendous days. Sam Darnold had 275 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Jordan Love had nearly 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, but he did throw 3 interceptions, which is a crazy day, just throwing the ball all around the yard, not even to your own team.
Yeah, I think this game, the final score is not indicative.
Debbie, are you able to hear Caden, or is that just me?
Can you hear me now?
Looking for confirmation from Debbie in the chat. Okay, he can hear Caden, okay. So it's a me problem. Caden, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the final score is not indicative at all of how this game went. The Vikings jumped out from the start and scored touchdowns, intercepted Jordan Love many times, and just were scoring at will. This game was 28-7 at one point, and obviously the final score is 31-29. So that means that, yes, in the second half of this game, the Packers did outscore them. What would that be? 22-3. That's domination in the second half from the Packers, but you got to think that a little bit of that is the Vikings defense lightening up at times, giving themselves a little bit more of a cushion because they have such a big lead. And honestly, the Vikings, you can't argue too much with the facts. The teams that they've played, the performances that they've had, very handily beating the 49ers, dominating the Packers this game, regardless of what the final score says. And last week, destroying the Texans, who are a very good team as well. And then obviously beating the Giants week 1. I truly believe that at this point in the season, the Vikings are the best team in the NFL. And we have seen that time and time again. Everyone says this is the week that they show that they're not that good, and it's all been a fluke. And they just continue to prove people wrong. I think the Vikings are the best team in the NFL at this point in the season, and I think that they can continue to ride this with Sam Darnold. So it's very it's a very fun story because a lot of people didn't have very high hopes for the Vikings. And on the other side of it, in the second half, that is what you like to see from Jordan Love. Maybe he was just shaking some of the rust off from missing a lot of time, but the Packers will be fine. I mean, this is a good team in the Vikings, and honestly, the whole NFC North as a whole is a very fun division, and I'm excited to see how it goes. Before we move on to this next game, I'd like to talk to you guys about our sponsor, K&F Construction. K&F Construction has been serving the Northeast Ohio community for over 16 years, specializing in composite decks. K&F Construction takes the time and effort to provide the service and product that you deserve for your home. You can call K&F Construction today at 330-575-2465 for a free estimate. Again, that's 330-575-2465. You can also visit kfdex.com, which is linked in the description below. K&F Construction, let us build your dream backyard. So now we're going to jump into the next set of games. The Steelers, the undefeated Steelers going to the Colts. The Colts won this game 27-24. And the story of this game is, once again, just like we saw last season, Anthony Richardson left the game and wasn't able to finish. He got hurt, sounds like a hip pointer, which is kind of just a pain tolerance type of thing, but definitely something to monitor. You don't want your quarterback, or anybody for that matter, to get hit when he's dealing with an injury like this. So the Colts go. He misses a play or two. They put him back in. What's the first thing they do when they bring in Anthony Richardson after being injured? They run a read option with him, and Anthony Richardson goes, slides. I mean, it wasn't like a actual like smart slide. It was a late slide, and it was like he slid on the side. Like it wasn't a very dirty hit by Minkah Fitzpatrick by any means, but Richardson gets hit in the head, helmet to helmet. Richardson leaves the game, wasn't able to finish. So the story of what we've seen from Anthony Richardson to this point in his career has been injuries. And people were saying he's just got to learn to not take hits and learn to stay healthy. And we're at week 5. He's played 4 games, and now we're seeing the same thing. Austin, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. We're good.
Awesome. What do you make of that? What do you make of Anthony Richardson? It sounds like it's not too severe. He might miss a week or so, but well, I mean, that is something that is a huge story, because that was obviously the story last season. He missed his whole rookie season with injuries.
Yeah, so like you said, big story. And like we kind of here's the hit here if you're able to watch. I mean, pretty routine stuff there. I mean, not anyone's fault really. That's just a football play. Happens to be unfortunate. But like you said, like I said, like pretty much everyone said, unless Anthony Richardson can learn how to protect his body, we're going to be dealing with this cycle all the time where Anthony Richardson's going to get hurt. And so the Colts are going to need to be smart and bring in a guy that is able to fill that role when Anthony Richardson goes out. And sure enough, here comes that guy. We saw him last year. We see him again this year. It's Joe Flacco, straight off of his couch from last season. Here he is. Goes and puts on a heck of a performance to get the Colts a win. And yeah, so like Anthony Richardson is obviously the biggest story in this game. He needs to learn how to not get hurt. Good on the Colts for having a guy behind him that they trust and can fill that role. The other storyline to this game is obviously, first off, the Steelers get handed their first loss of the year. And Justin Fields played a pretty good game. Like he had 3 touchdowns. He really was doing everything he could to win for his team. Passing was all right. Wasn't the most accurate, but I think he had over 300 yards through the air. So all around, it was an exciting game to watch for sure. And I think that my statement last week still kind of stands here, where as long as Justin Fields continues to play no turnover football, I don't think we see Russell Wilson this year.
Yeah. I mean, Justin Fields had one pretty bad play in this game where he tried to make a play and scrambled around, ran way behind line of scrimmage, got sacked, taking them out of field goal range, and fumbled. So that was something we saw from him out of the Bears when he was in Chicago, but I don't think that that's going to continue. That was a one-time thing, and like you said, he played very good in this game, and I'm not too worried.
For sure.
And I agree, he should continue to be a starter.
Yeah. All right, so now that we've gone through a couple of games that were really high-powered, a lot of offense, really exciting to watch, let's move over to the other end of football. We have the Broncos and Jets. Ooh, 10-9 final score. Broncos win. Jets lose off of a missed field goal, a missed go-ahead field goal. Actually, it was not a very hard field goal to make. Aaron Rodgers looking very frustrated on the sideline after this game, and I would be too. How you only scored points.
Yeah, he can only be mad at himself. I mean,
really
I get it that the Broncos have a good defense, but come on, you got to score more than 9. They didn't have a touchdown in this game. It was all field goals.
Yeah, that was a bad performance. Rodgers said, I think today that his knee is a little swollen. So obviously we'll be keeping our eyes on that. We're not really sure what that's about. Did he twist something? Did he pop something? He said it's just wear and tear, nothing to be concerned about. But obviously that's something to keep our eyes on. He is old. Broncos obviously snuck away with one here. I mean, if the Jets can kick a field goal, if they can score a touchdown, they're absolutely cooked. So this might be the ceiling for the Broncos this year, but good on them for getting a win while they can.
Yeah. And I mean, at halftime, Bo Nix had -7 pass yards. I don't know how that's physically possible. Like, and they won the game. He finishes the game with 60 passing yards, and they win the game. It's absolutely absurd. So, Jets, this might be. I mean, this can't be an all-time low. You guys have had some really low lows the past couple of seasons, but this was definitely a game of all time.
Yeah, it's one they're going to want to forget. All right, next game that we have here, we talked about it a little bit already. We have the Eagles and Buccaneers. This game was out of hand from the very beginning. And there were some sections of the game where you kind of forgot how close it was. Like on that, the blocked point after touchdown that gets returned for the 2 points. Like, you look at the score, if you were watching the game, you're like, oh, they're only 2 scores behind. It's no big deal. The Eagles had a chance at one point in the game to score right before the half and then get the ball back and try to score again, try to really get it close. But it never really felt like this game was within reach. The Buccaneers absolutely walloped them 33-16.
Mm-hmm. And the Eagles, obviously they were without AJ Brown and Devante Smith in this game, and that really showed. They were really missing that pass catcher down the field. It was a lot of Saquon Barkley, and it was a lot of Dallas Goedert. And aside from that, their offense was non-existent. I mean, their defense, on the other hand, did not help them at all. I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson was burnt toast in this game. I mean, he talked a big game going into it, and he really struggled against Mike Evans and Godwin, and Trey Palmer scored a touchdown in this game for the Bucs. I mean, the Buccaneers were doing whatever they wanted. And if it wasn't for we can say what it is. Oh, if it wasn't for a fluke game last week against the Broncos, the Buccaneers would be sitting here at 4-0. I mean, Buccaneers look like a very good team right now. And Philly, on the other hand, definitely has a lot of questions. I know they have a lot of injuries, but when you have this talented of a roster, and I believe a pretty talented quarterback, you should be winning games and definitely not losing like this. So I think that falls back on coaching, and I think there should be a lot of questions about Nick Sirianni and his future with the team. For sure.
I mean, obviously, we can't just be taking these one games out of context. Like, they are still a good team. I think they're 2-2. Mm-hmm. I think that's correct. Again, another 2-2 that just doesn't sit right. It doesn't taste good. That's a 2-2 that you're like, man, we really should be 3-1. We really should be 4-0 given the roster that we have. We're just not able to get it done. All right, the next game that we're going to have coming up here is the Jaguars and Texans. The Texans looking to bounce back after a rough week last week. I'm trying to get to the game here. I can't find it on my phone. Either way, Texas looking to bounce back after a rough loss last week. They do. They bounce all the way back, win 24-20. Obviously, we were kind of all expecting that. The question for me, and that I will pose to you, because it's the question that everyone is asking, is what is up in Jacksonville, man? Like, I don't think anyone really expected the Jaguars to be doing particularly well, but I don't think anyone expected them to be 0-4 to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think one win would have been okay at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of like what we talked about all season, I think the story with a lot of teams is coaching. And I think that is a big issue in Jacksonville right now. They have what I believe is a great roster. Brian Thomas Jr. is a dominant rookie receiver. Travis Etienne is a very solid above tier running back. Trevor Lawrence has not played good. No, but he is not as bad as 0-4. I mean, I truly believe this all falls on coaching. I mean, I don't really know what to say because they haven't taken much roster steps back. I mean, they lost Calvin Ridley, obviously, but aside from that, they haven't taken too many steps back roster-wise for the last couple of seasons, but they've gotten worse, and I truly think that just boils down to coaching and scheme. And honestly, to flip it on the Texans, you said they were looking for a bounce-back week. Yes, they did, but not to what a lot of people were expecting. A lot of people thought they were going to dominate this game, and it came down to they needed a last-second touchdown. I mean, CJ Stroud and the Texans aren't looking like the dominant team we thought they would. They won a close game against the Colts week 1, a very close game with the Bears week 2, and then got blown out by the Vikings week 3, and then a close game with Jacksonville week 4. Like, yes, a win is a win, and that's all that matters, and nobody's saying they're not a good team, but it is a little concerning that if you play another really good team, you might struggle. I mean, they got Buffalo next week, so that's going to be interesting against a team that also got blown out last week. So another team that we're going to see how they look against another what we believe is a good team. So I'm excited to see that game, but there's a lot of questions for, I believe, the Texans. But yeah, the Jags, I think it falls back on coaching.
For sure. All right, the next game that we're going to talk about is the football team, or Commanders as some people call them, and the Cardinals. The Commanders wound up winning this game soundly, 42-14. I mean, the Cardinals, whatever. I don't know. I'm not.
Hey guys, K&A Football lied to you. We told you a couple weeks ago that we were the highest people ever on the Cardinals, that there's nobody out there that's higher on the Cardinals than us. That was a lie. The Cardinals are not what we thought they were. They're all of our, at least for me, I can't really speak for you, I guess, but my hopes and dreams for the Cardinals this season are kind of going away. I mean, their offense was supposed to be their strong suit, and the Commanders' defense is terrible. There's no way to put it. And they scored 14 points against that defense. So, I mean, my hopes and dreams for the Cardinals this season are gone.
Yeah, I think they kind of peaked in week 2. That's a bad time to peak, but week 2 is their time to peak. And I mean, the Commanders I feel like they're just heating up like every single week. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season, like, hey, the Commanders are going to be one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels, he's going to be that guy with like an 87% completion rate over 4 games, I was going to be like, yeah, okay. Well, here they are, one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels has an 87% completion rate over 4 games. It is exciting to watch. Like, I'm happy to see this. Like, I'm not necessarily a Commanders fan. I've never been a fan of Washington. I really couldn't care less about the team. But it's exciting to see a bad team be good after years of struggling. To see, I mean, it brings a tear to your eye as an Ohio State fan to see Terry McLaurin catching footballs like that land in his hands. He doesn't have to do circus catches just to get one hand on it. So I'm excited about this.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people were not really saying Anthony Richardson. Whew, let me restart that. A lot of people were saying, Jaden Daniels, will he go number one? It wasn't too much of a conversation, but there was definitely a few people who were saying like, oh, Caleb Williams is going to be a bust. I'm not calling Caleb Williams a bust, but Jaden Daniels looks like a generational quarterback. I know it's only been 4 games, but completely different offense. That offense is electric. They're fun to watch. And I'm not going to jinx them like we did with the Cardinals and say that we are so high on them and that they're the most fun team to watch, but they definitely are one of the more fun teams to watch right now.
For sure. All right, next game that we have here is the Patriots and 49ers. This game does not deserve very much talking about, so I won't talk about it too much. The 49ers won 30-13. Anyone and their mother could have predicted this one was going to happen. Even with all of the injuries that are riddling the 49ers locker room right now, they're able to pull it together, drop 30 on the Patriots' head, and get out of there.
Yeah. Honestly, like you said, there's not too much to say. I mean, it's what we expected. There wasn't any fireworks. I guess the one storyline is Brandon Ayuk continues to struggle. He didn't play good in this game. He only had, I think, 2 receptions. Jordan Mason is amazing, but Brandon Ayuk, who threw his little temper tantrum in the offseason, didn't go to any training camp, demanded his money. He got his money, but now he's terrible. I mean, I'm sure teams like Pittsburgh and teams like New England and Cleveland are very happy right now that they didn't
For sure.
throw a first-round pick, didn't throw a bag, didn't throw Amari Cooper, George Pickens, a lot of these good assets and players at the 49ers to get someone like Brandon Ayuk who's playing this poorly to start the season. I mean, he does not look like the same player we've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd love to talk about this game more, except that no, I wouldn't. So let's move on. Got the Browns and Raiders up next. Big storylines heading into this game. Max Crosby and... Did I get that right? That's Max Crosby, right?
Yeah, Max Crosby and Devante Adams.
Okay, Max Crosby and Devante Adams. For some reason, I was thinking of like the Crosby like kicker, and I was like, I don't know if I got
Mason Crosby.
Yeah, I was like,
He's
I don't know if I got
not
that
even
first
in the
name
league.
right.
He's not even in the league anymore.
No, I'm aware he played very many years ago, but I was worried about that. All right, anyways, that's the big storyline is that 2 Raiders stars were not playing in this game. Obviously, that frees up the Browns defense and the Browns offense. You no longer have to guard Devante Adams. You can go for the next guy. So your best corner's on their number 2 guy. And then on offense, obviously, not having Max Crosby is a massive, massive help. Don't have to worry about him on the defense. So the Browns really never stood a chance in this game. I'm not going to lie. Like, it was close throughout the whole game. It's like, oh, it could happen. But, I mean, deep down, anyone watching this game knew that the Browns were not winning this game. We just could not put anything together, really. Anything resembling an offense was non-existent. We did finally figure out that running the ball works, and we did that a little more consistently. So I'm excited about that. Nick Chubb begins practice this week, so that's another really great thing. Browns fall. I am really, I don't know whether I'm surprised or just disappointed or just jaded at this point. But the big storyline coming out of this game is that Devante Adams wants out. The Raiders said earlier today, like, hey, maybe we're willing to shop him a little bit. We're going to make some calls, kind of see what the interest is, test the market, and we'll see. And then Devante Adams was like, hey, really funny. Really perfect timing, actually. I went out. So he's demanding a trade. He does not want to play there anymore. And personally, definitely don't blame him. I mean, his talent level far exceeds what the Raiders are capable of. I mean, he thought that when he left Green Bay to come play with the Raiders, he thought that he was going to get to play with his college teammate, Derek Carr. He thought that the Raiders were going to be a competitor. I don't know why he ever thought that. He could have just asked K&A Football, hey, do you think the Raiders are going to be a competitor? We would have told him no. But he didn't do that.
We're good friends with Devante Adams. He asked us sometimes.
Yeah, Tay and us, we're tight, you know. So he wants out. So obviously then the big question is, where does he go? No one really knows. There's a lot of ideas. Kate and I will talk about that a little bit later. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, Caden, you have anything to say about this game?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Browns, if you watch this game, it never looked like the Browns are going to win this game. They had a touchdown to go ahead and take the lead, 80-yard touchdown to Amari Cooper, but it got called back due to penalty. And I mean, Deshaun, honestly, from what I saw, he didn't play the worst football in the world. He didn't play good by any means, but their offensive line really struggles. So definitely, Debbie claims that Debbie has an update. I don't know if that means regarding the Devante Adams situation. So we're gonna hold. Debbie's on. Oh, I like that setup, Debbie. Can you hear him?
I cannot hear Debbie. No.
There you go.
Oh, now we can.
He had himself muted.
You guys got a little peek at the setup behind me. But who knows if this is relevant or not. Apparently, this was posted 48 minutes ago. Breaking news: Devante Adams seen at Pittsburgh Airport. Who knows?
Devante Adams in Pittsburgh would be...
That'd be crazy.
The worst. That would be the worst thing I've ever heard.
But
having to play him twice.
He's just shopping around, so who knows?
No, you'd have to play him three. Oh, no, he didn't play this week. I was going to say you'd have to end up playing him 3 times.
That's the update.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. That is a nice studio behind you. Yeah, so maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. Maybe he goes to Kansas City. Maybe he goes to the Jets. And, wait, why would he go to Kansas City, you ask? I mean, they got a pretty good team already over there. They got Rashee Rice. They got all this stuff. Well, I guess let's just jump right into that game. The Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs won this one 17-10. The Chiefs playing very Chiefs football so far this season, not dominating by any means, not playing great offensively, really just riding their defense. And that's what they did in this game, and it worked out. But why would they trade for Devante Adams again? Like, that still doesn't make sense. Well, Mahomes threw an interception in this game. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Throws a pretty bad interception. And then on the return, obviously the Chiefs are going to make the tackle. Rashee Rice goes and strips the ball out from the Chargers defender. So great play by Rashee Rice, but then Mahomes at the same time kind of goes for the legs of the Chargers player, dives at his legs, trying to make the tackle. And while he does that, he hits. It was a really disgusting looking play. Hits like the front, I believe, of Rashee Rice, whose feet were already planted in the ground. And then his knee does like a little bit of a hyperextended thing. And then nothing is confirmed at the moment, but it is very much looking like a torn ACL for Rashee Rice. Obviously, that would be ending his season. That is a massive blow for the Chiefs because Rashee Rice has been incredible at this point in the season. And he's been really one of the main focal points of their offense. That's their wide receiver one that they're losing. And so obviously the Chiefs now are kind of looking like a similar situation to what there was last season. Struggling wide receiving core. They obviously now they have Xavier Worthy, but Debbie, I don't know if I
I hate this place so much.
I'm just gonna put my hand over the camera so I don't gotta see it. But
I hate that. I hate that so much.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of people are saying, will the Chiefs trade for Amari Cooper, who is looking very well, like he could be traded right now? Will they trade for Deontay Johnson? Will they trade for Adam Thielen? Will they trade for Devante Adams? Will they trade for one of these guys? I think you have to. I think there's no way the Chiefs don't go get a receiver, and I think the Chiefs know that. So I think we will see a new receiver for the Chiefs in the next couple of days, if not that, most definitely before the trade deadline.
Yeah. All right. So the next game that we're going to jump into here, we have 3 left. We have the Bills and Ravens. Did I skip one?
Nope, that's right.
Bills Ravens. Okay. Bills Ravens. The Ravens ended up winning this one 35-10. I'm going to be honest, I did not see very much of this game. I was driving home at this point, and so I did not get to catch it. and
I saw a bunch. Yeah.
I did when I got back. Then I had to take a quiz, and I may or may not have fallen asleep while taking the quiz. So not my brightest
I'm
moment.
sure
Oh,
you did great. Yeah.
I killed it. All right, so Caden, talk about this game for us.
Yeah, I mean, the score is very indicative of the game, unlike the Vikings game that I talked about. That I really hope Austin heard. If you didn't hear it, Austin, because you couldn't hear me, you should go back and listen to it. Because, yeah, just because. But the Ravens dominated this game kind of from start to finish. We saw it on the top plays of the week. Derrick Henry, 87-yard touchdown run, and they didn't really look back from there. Their second drive, Derrick Henry scores again. They were doing whatever they want. Derrick Henry had 199 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. One of them was receiving. I mean, he almost had another one. He fumbled at the 1-yard line, but it was picked up by the Ravens for a touchdown. Like, there was one moment in this game where it was a little bit closer and the Bills looked like they were having a little momentum and all this, and they were driving. They had just scored a touchdown, and they were driving down the field again. And then they tried a super dumb play. I mean, it was like a wildcat that he pitched it to Josh Allen, who then ran around and tried to throw it deep. But the play was just blown up from the start. And as Josh Allen threw, he got the ball hit, fumble, picked up by the Ravens, and then the game was just over at that point. Ravens had all the momentum with a dominant lead. This game was not a contest, really, from start to finish. The Ravens offense is very, very scary with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, Lamar Jackson is scary enough. The diversity that he brings to a team between the throwing and the running is scary enough. And then obviously when you see a guy like Derrick Henry, where it's like, oh, he's just going to run through my face, and then he does something crazy like not run through your face and run at 21 miles an hour, 87 yards to the end zone. You're like, you really can't. You just can't scheme for that. You cannot stop that guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then the next game that we're going to talk about here goes to the Monday night slate, and that's the Titans and Dolphins. Definitely, I did not expect this game. Titans 31, Dolphins 12. Did I expect the Dolphins to win this game? Not necessarily. I mean, maybe. The Titans are bad. Maybe the Dolphins could win. Did I expect the Titans to score 31? Absolutely not.
Well, it was all the end of the game. If you watch this game, the Titans for 3/4 of this game had about 16 points. It was both ways some of the worst football that I have ever seen. This was very comparable to that Colts Broncos game that me and you talk about so much on Thursday night a couple of seasons back. This was one of the worst games that I've ever watched. It was so bad. Thankfully, there was another Monday night game on, and I watched a lot of that one instead because this one absolutely sucked. Will Levis got injured very early in this game, and Mason Rudolph came in, and he was the quarterback. And, I mean, they scored a lot at the end. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I don't know how they scored 31. Because I wasn't watching the end of the game, but it was like 16-9 all game. It was, but on the other side of it, this is all I'm going to say because I can't believe we're spending more than 0.5 seconds on this game. The Miami Dolphins are the worst team in the NFL if they're going to roll with this quarterback situation because they were, let me pull it up. Actually, I don't know why I haven't done that. Tyler Huntley was their quarterback. He had 96 yards. He couldn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball because the defenses were not scared of Tyler Huntley throwing, which why should you be? He missed Tyreek Hill on 2 deep balls. Dude, it was one of the worst quarterback performances, honestly, that I've seen in a while. They're not gonna win a game until my voice is like cutting out. Oh my goodness. This is what talking about this game does to me, dude. There's no way to put it. Like, they will not win a game unless they either bring Tua back or they figure out their situation because Tyler Huntley is not the answer. And they already just announced Tyler Huntley is starting week 5. They're not going to win. You just announced that you're losing week 5. You forfeit. Like, they are They are not good with Tyler Huntley. I'm sorry. Dolphins, I believe, are the worst team in the NFL with their current situation.
Yeah, they need to do something in quick. Like Caden and I talked about last week, our audible was that the Dolphins desperately need to bring in another quarterback, whether that's signing a guy like Ryan Tannehill that currently does not have a team, or whether that's trading for a guy like Russell Wilson, who won't be starting this year, and you desperately need someone who can complete a pass. But we spent way too much time on this game because it was awful. All right, so the game that everyone actually watched was the Seahawks and Lions. Another high-scoring game, 29-42. Big storyline out of this game. Jared Goff breaks the record for the most completions without an incompletion. He was 18 for 18 on the day. Absolutely perfect. Slinging the ball around the yard, 42 points for the Lions. This is the Lions that I was hoping to see all year.
Yeah. It's kind of the first time all season that we saw last year's Lions. They looked really good out there. They could run the ball with ease. Obviously, Jared Goff broke the record. Like you said, they were passing with ease. They were doing whatever they wanted out there. And Jared Goff even caught a touchdown in this game. I mean, really just great game all around by Detroit, but also great job by Seattle hanging around. They had a lot of missing defensive pieces. It was a very fun Monday Night Football game.
For sure. And I don't have too much else to say about this. So we are going to quickly run through our picks for week 5. And I would like to quickly remind all of you that Caden and I are in the middle of a very heated battle. We are 4 weeks into our yearly pick'em, which is why we pick these games on air every single week. To give you guys the current standings, I currently have 37 games predicted correctly. Caden currently has 38. So we are very, very tight. And I would like to remind you guys that if you have an idea for what the loser among us should do, who picks the most games incorrectly, what our punishment should be sure to leave a comment, whether that's you DM us on Instagram or you comment on this video on YouTube. We would love to hear what you guys have. And within the next couple of weeks here, especially as we approach the end of the season, we will be putting out a poll of the most popular or most fun ideas that we see. So that way, we can provide more entertainment because we are, of course, an entertainment machine over here. So, Caden, let's jump into the games. Tampa Bay and Falcons.
Should be a good game. Should be a good divisional NFC South Thursday night game, honestly. But I got Tampa Bay.
I got Tampa Bay too. I think there's no way. I mean, there is a way they don't lose this game. It is a divisional game, but with the way they've been playing, I definitely have them winning here. Jets and Vikings. Where's this game?
In London. This game's in London. Yeah. I got the Vikings. I talked about it when you were not here. I think the Vikings are the best team in the NFL right now. So.
Oh, wow. I'll definitely have to go back and watch that because that is a wild take. But I got the Vikings too. I think that the Jets are on a bit of a slump here. All right, here we go. This is going to be an abysmal one. Carolina and Chicago.
I got the Panthers.
I got the Panthers too, only because Andy Dalton. That is legitimately the only reason I have them.
I very much agree.
All right, Ravens and Bengals.
I got the Ravens. The Bengals defense really scares me, especially going against this Baltimore team.
I got the Ravens too. I think that after it was a convincing win against Buffalo this last week. And so with the Bengals getting scored on like they did against Carolina, definitely got the Ravens here. All right, Texans and Bills.
I got the Bills. The Texans have kind of scared me the last couple of weeks, getting dominated by the Vikings, who obviously good team, but a close one against Jacksonville. Buffalo, I know they just got dominated, but I got Buffalo.
I actually am going to take the Texans on this one. I think that it'll be a good game. I think that it'll be a lot closer than people might think. I'm going to take the Texans. I don't really have a reason, just kind of a feeling deep down. All right, then we got the Jaguars and Colts.
All right, so this one is interesting. I think that because we can go in and change these before the game. If Richardson's playing, I'm going to go the Colts. I'm going to go the Jags. But if Joe Flacco's playing, I'm going to pick the Colts.
I could not agree more with what you're saying here. And so just know that if Flacco is starting this game, because obviously once the game starts, we can't change it. If Flacco starts the game, we're going Colts. If Flacco does not start the game, we're going Jaguars. So for the time being, I am going to go Colts just because I hope they make the right decision to start him. Or not that I hope that Anthony Richardson is hurt, but I'm just going to go Colts to start with. Mm-hmm. All right. Here we go. This is going to be a bad one. Dolphins and Patriots.
Patriots. Not picking Miami with Tyler Huntley.
Yep. I completely agree, and I hate to say it. All right. This one's easy. Cleveland and Washington.
I'm picking Washington, but I have a weird feeling about it. I think Browns could, for some reason, their defensive line could give a little bit of struggles to. You don't think so?
Nope, I do not think so. We are going to get blown out by 80. I have no faith in this team anymore. All right, Raiders and Broncos.
This is going to be a good game, but with Devante Adams still being injured, I have Denver.
That is insane because I have Denver, and we've picked pretty much the exact same games through this entire week, and I really thought that Denver was going to be my Austin wouldn't.
Well, yeah, we have one difference right now.
I am going to go Denver. I mean, they've won the last 2 weeks, and they've sneakily won the last 2 weeks. So I think that these flukes keep happening with them. All right. Our really fun team. We're really, really high on them. The Cardinals and the 49ers.
I got the 49ers.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Seattle and the Giants.
Seattle.
I'm going to go Seattle. But
no, if you want to go the Giants, go the Giants.
I don't have the confidence to pick the Giants, but the fact that they're playing better than I would have expected, and I'm not super high on Seattle, makes me think for a second, but I am going to go Seattle just because.
Think about how upset you're going to be if the Giants win. Sure you don't want to pick them?
But I'll know better. No. I gotta stick with my guns here. All right, Green Bay and the Rams.
I have the Packers.
I have the Packers too. The Rams they have too many injuries right now, and Jordan Love had too good of a game. Dallas and Pittsburgh.
This one was very tough for me, actually, but I am going Pittsburgh.
No, stop picking the same games as me. I'm going Pittsburgh. They're playing too well, and Dallas is playing too bad. All right, please, can we at least differ on two? We won't. Saints, Saints, and Kansas City.
Kansas City.
All right, Kansas City. All right, so we differ on one game. What was that one game that we differed on?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. All right, so this could be my chance to tie it up. One game difference. That is insane. Hopefully we get them perfect. Otherwise, we're going to look like idiots.
True.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Matchup Madness.
Welcome to this week's special segment. This week, our special segment, or I guess this month, I guess I've said that every single week. This month's special segment is Matchup Madness.
Yes, so in this segment, Debbie will be introducing a player, and then that player will be put up against other players, and Caden and I will have to decide whether we want the player that Debbie said or the opponent. We'll be matching that player up with a couple of different guys and see how they stack up.
So without further ado, let's bring in Debbie, who has
right.
this week's. I can't believe that set every time. You look like a pro back there.
We are a pro podcast. All right. This matchup madness segment, we are going to be matching up Amari Cooper against, 5 other receivers.
Yeah.
So the first receiver we'll be putting up against recently injured Rashee Rice. What do you boys think?
Austin, you want to go ahead and go first on this one? I'll take the next one.
Sure. So obviously we are matching up Amari Cooper with these guys because he is on the trade block. He has expressed interest in getting out of Cleveland, and Cleveland understands that he is old, and there is a lot of money tied up with him. So it's really a toss-up here. So between Amari Cooper and Rashee Rice, who would I rather have on my team? Well, for me, it depends a lot on what my goals are for the team. And I think that that's going to be a common theme with all of these guys. Is if I'm building for the future, I probably want Rashee Rice. If I want to win today, probably going to go Amari Cooper. Overall, though, I think Rashee Rice is a really, really great wide receiver. I have really high aspirations for him in the future. So out of those two, I really do think I would go with Rashee Rice.
I agree. I would also go Rashee Rice. I think for a lot of these, we kind of just have to put it for this season, especially. I mean, obviously, barring injury, because Rashee Rice is probably out for the season. But a lot of these guys, I would assume. I mean, we obviously picked the players on there, but I'm trying to remember back. I honestly don't remember what players we put. But Amari Cooper, I would imagine, is older than a lot of them. So if you're basing for the future, you're going to pick the younger guys. So for all of these, I would say we would just assume for this season. But even for this season, I would say Rashee Rice. I think he took a very great second year leap from what we see in the first 3 weeks this season. It's a bummer we're not going to be able to see it the rest of the year, but he's a very good receiver. He's very reliable, and he was a number 1 for the best quarterback in the NFL. So what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
Awesome. Next up, we have T. Higgins.
That's a good one. I mean, T. Higgins is kind of under Jamar Chase's spotlight. I mean, a lot of talk this offseason about him wanting to leave, him wanting to go be a number 1 somewhere else, which I mean is fair. He has a very good skill set and could very well be a 1 somewhere. This one, I think, is a lot harder than the Rashee Rice one. I'm still going to lean T. Higgins on this. I think that once he leaves Cincinnati, which I think is inevitable next season, I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver 1 wherever he goes. And I think he has speed. I think he has very good jump ball ability. And where he is this season, honestly, as a wide receiver 2, it's unfair for defenses that their number 2 corner has to guard T. Higgins. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said about T. Higgins. It's just the fact that we haven't seen him as a number 1 guy. It's very notable that it's unfair that the other team's second corner has to guard him. But would he have the same productivity if the team's number 1 corner was guarding him, like Amari Cooper had to deal with? And Amari Cooper had that sort of situation where he was the number 2 guy in Dallas, and then he's obviously the number 1 guy in Cleveland now. So I'm going to go with Amari Cooper over T. Higgins on this one. Obviously, that could change based on how T. Higgins performs once he leaves Cincinnati. For the time being, I go with Amari Cooper.
All right. Next we have Jalen Waddle, projected to make 9.73 points in fantasy for next week. What do you guys think?
a little side nugget there from Debbie.
That sounds like Debbie has Jalen.
I was going to say the same thing.
He's unhappy with his performance recently. All right, so for this one, oh, man, this one's tough. And in my heart, I do want to say Jalen Waddle, but given the fact that I went Amari Cooper over T. Higgins in the last one, I feel like logically I have to stick with Amari Cooper on this one because I think the same types of reasons apply for why I would go Amari Cooper over T. Higgins for Jalen Waddle. So I'm going to go Amari Cooper over Jalen Waddle here.
I'm also going to go Amari Cooper. I think with Jalen Waddle, you have a lot of injury concerns year in and year out. He's constantly not able to finish games. He'll play for a little bit and then leave. I mean, kind of with T. Higgins, we haven't seen him as a wide receiver one, really. Did he have a season without Tyreek Hill? I think he did have one. I think it was rookie year. But I just think Amari Cooper is a good wide receiver one. He's had some struggles this year with drops, but he's a very solid wide receiver one. He can stretch the field. He can take short plays and take it the distance. I mean, he's a reliable receiver. I'm going to take him over Jalen Waddle here. I think Jalen Waddle is a lot of production is the defenses are focused so much on Tyreek Hill that they have less to focus on Jalen Waddle.
Yeah. All right, Debbie, who's our next one?
All right, and second to last, we have DJ Moore.
Ooh. You can take
this one's very interesting. Obviously, DJ Moore played for Panthers for a while, didn't get much recognition, had a lot of production for what he was dealing with in Carolina. Goes to Chicago, great year last year with Justin Fields. Now he's with Caleb Williams, and they're having a down season. And honestly, if you watch the Bears, he looks dead on the sideline. Even after scoring a touchdown, he's just like puts his hands in the air, gives Caleb Williams a hug. Like, he does not look happy. He looks like dead. It's really sad to see. And I truly think DJ Moore I'm picking DJ Moore here. I think he has potential to be an elite receiver. We have not seen him with a good quarterback. Justin Fields is the best quarterback. He played with towards the end of his career, Cam Newton for a little bit, and that was a very good rookie season. DJ Moore, like he was great early in his career, and he's still great now. He just doesn't have that guy to get him the ball. I think if you give them both the same quarterback, I think DJ Moore is. Definitely DJ Moore.
I'm going Amari Cooper on this one. I think DJ Moore might have the potential to be that guy, to be better than Amari Cooper. But it's really been, and it's definitely not his fault. Like, obviously you have to have a quarterback that gets you the ball. You have to have a scheme that gets you the ball. But he just hasn't shown the productivity that I've seen out of Amari Cooper. So I'm going to go Amari Cooper on this one.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
All right. And last up, we have Deontay Johnson, who, this may or may not be true. There's a report that him and his agent spoke with the Chiefs regarding a possible trade to bring him to Kansas City, per the NFL Network. So we'll see if that happens. But what do you guys think about Deontay Johnson?
I really hope that doesn't happen. I'll just say that. But this one's interesting. You can go ahead and take this one first. I had the last one.
All right. For this one, I am still going to stick with Amari Cooper. That might be a little bit of just home team bias, but I'm going to stick with him on all accounts other than the Rashee Rice.
I mean, yeah, it might be a little home team bias for me as well. I'm going Johnson here. I think he is such a phenomenal route runner. I mean, maybe it's just something I'm not used to because last season the Panthers receivers got negative yards of separation. I think the DBs were like on the receivers' backs, and the receivers were just giving them piggyback rides. And then when Bryce would throw the ball, they would just get off their back and be like, "Oh, you didn't get any separation, interception." So Deontay Johnson, I mean, he is one of the better separators in the NFL, but especially coming to a team like Carolina that is completely new to that offense, and it's really crazy to watch. And I really hope Johnson doesn't leave. I hope he can reach an extension with the Panthers, but in all honesty, I don't think he stays. I don't think he's very thrilled being in a losing organization, which how can you blame him? So I'm going to go Johnson here. I think he is better, but Cooper is a good receiver. I know I didn't pick him much, but Cooper's good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap up the episode for us this week. Thank you guys so much for watching our recap, our pick'ems, and then our matchup madness. We will see you guys next week for a recap of week 5.